Hello, my name is Katie Sprague, and I'm one of the education specialists at the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County. Today we're going to be doing an activity called Adaptation Artistry, and this is from a resource called Project Wild. Be sure to let us know in the comments where you're watching from and like and share this video. First, we're going to get into a little background. The Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County began operations in 1975, and we manage the county's solid waste. We do that in 5 different ways. So we manage the recycling, which is everything you put into your blue and your yellow bins. We process that and send it out to be turned into new recycled material. We also manage the home chemical and recycling centers. So if you're a Palm Beach County resident and you have hazardous waste at home, things like old paint or maybe even old electronics, you can drop those off to us and we'll make sure they're disposed of properly. We also have 2 renewable energy facilities. There we take your garbage, burn it, and turn it into a clean electricity. I said we process all of your solid waste, so we also take your number 2. We get that from a wastewater treatment facility, and we take that, heat it up using methane, a gas from the landfill, to kill off any germs or bacteria, and turn it into an eco-friendly fertilizer. The last resort for our waste is the landfill. So if you live locally, you might have noticed driving past on the turnpike, Big Hill. That's our landfill. What we're putting in there now is mostly ashes. So it takes up a lot less space than whole garbage. But there is still a limit on how much ash we can continue to put into that landfill. Right now, we have until about 2053 when that landfill is full. After that, we'll have to find another solution for disposing of the residue from our waste. What a lot of people don't know, though, is that we have trails on our property. The SWA Greenway Trail System was started because we were originally going to put the landfill across the street. In the 1980s, we had a bunch of people come out to survey the property, including environmental groups. And in that time, they found an endangered species living there. Now, endangered means that there's a possibility this animal could die out completely and there wouldn't be any more. We want to make sure that doesn't happen. So because of this endangered species, that Everglades snailkite, it's a kind of bird, we turned this area into 300 acres of protected wildlife preserve. That means there's never going to be any kind of development there. It will keep it protected for the nature. But there are trails that people can walk through. You can bring your bikes, you can enjoy nature, and you might see some of the other animals we have out there. Things like alligators, bobcats, deer, other birds like roseate spoonbills or wood storks. And of course, lots of insects like the lubber grasshopper. Many of these animals have adaptations to help them survive. An adaptation can be a physical trait or a behavior that helps an animal to live better in its environment. So it might be something that helps them to feed off of the other plants or animals that live in that area. It might be something that makes them better suited to live around water. Those are just some examples. But these kinds of adaptations can help their population survive. For birds, many of their adaptations can be found in their beaks, their feet, legs, wings, and even their coloration. These are also some of the ways that you can identify different birds. So the shape of the bird's beak can tell you a lot about what it eats, and the feet can tell you about where it lives and more about what it eats. So we have some examples here of different bird adaptations. So we'll start at the top with the beaks. I know a lot of you probably recognize what a hummingbird looks like. So a hummingbird has a really long bill. That's because it eats nectar from flowers. And it has to have that long bill to be able to get down into that flower to get that nectar out. When we talk about talons, you know what a duck looks like. It actually has webbed feet. And so between the toes, there are pieces of skin that let it swim better in the water. It pushes that water. Legs, an ostrich, you've probably seen, has long, powerful legs. This helps it to run better and faster. When it comes to wings, owls have fringed wings that allow them to fly silently at night so they can sneak up on their prey. And for coloration, many male birds have bright colors, and that's to attract the females. And female birds often have duller colors because they want to be camouflaged on the nest. They don't want to stick out to any possible predators. Now, I said that our endangered species on our property was the Everglades snail kite. And this is an example of a male snail kite. So you can see one of his special adaptations is the shape of that beak. It has this curved hook shape to it. And that's because of the food that it likes to eat, the apple snail. This is a shell you're seeing here. The snail would live curled inside of that shell. Now this is the snail kite's favorite food. So it flies along, it sees snails, it swoops down, grabs them in its feet, and flies off to a safe tree or to its nest to go back to eat it. It holds it in its foot while it sticks its beak in and scoops out that snail. Now that beak has been specially shaped so it fits into that snail shell. One of the problems that the Everglades snail kite is having is drought. So if there's not a lot of rain, there's no place for the snails to live, meaning there's nothing for the snail kite to eat. Another problem is an invasive snail species. So invasive means that it's not found here naturally. It comes in and it can take over. So this invasive snail species is much bigger than our native snail. And that means that the snail kites can't carry them to the safe trees that they need to. The invasive snail also lays a lot more eggs, so it's possible it could take over from our native snail. We want to make sure we protect our environment for the native species. So we've covered the Solid Waste Authority background. We've talked about adaptations. Now it's time to get started on our activity. So again, this is called Adaptation Artistry from Project Wild. So we are going to create a bird of our very own. This is going to be an imaginary bird that has special adaptations for its environment. I want you to put your thinking caps on, get your creativity juices flowing. Imagine what Florida will be like in 500 years. So we're now in the year 2520. What's the weather like? Where do the people live? How has the wildlife changed? Once you start thinking about your habitat, what Florida looks like now, we're going to start designing the bird that lives there. So think about, where does that bird live? Does it live in the trees, near the water, somewhere else? What will it eat? How does it move? Does it run, swim, or fly? Is it a male or a female? How does it raise its young? Make your list of adaptations that are necessary for your bird to survive. So if Florida is mostly covered by water in 500 years in your head, your bird is probably going to need to be able to eat things like fish, like turtles, like crabs. Once you have figured out those adaptations, once you know what it needs to survive, it's time to create your bird. You can build it out of things you found around your house. You can go outside for materials. You can even draw it if you want to. So I have made an example for you today so you can see what I'm talking about. This is my bird. This is the purple mingo. The purple mingo has evolved from the American flamingo, as you can probably tell, but it has some important adaptations to the changed environment. So in my head, I thought 500 years in the future, more of Florida is going to be covered by water. So the purple mingo's habitat is now more around central Florida because the southern portions of Florida have been flooded. So although we have had warmer temperatures and that brought sea level rises, the earth has started to cool now. So the purple mingo is developing thicker feathers to keep it warm. Like its ancestors, the flamingo, the purple mingo gets its color from the things it eats. So these long legs here mean it's a wading bird. So it gets food from the water. But unfortunately, because of human pollution, it has affected the things that the mingo eats. So algae and brine shrimp have both become purple in color because of the increased pollution, but they have adapted to that. And now our mingos have become purple. And the most attractive mingos are the darkest, brightest colored ones. This is a male. You can see he's got very bright purple feathers. And the ones in the back here are so dark that they're almost black. Its wings are also a pretty big adaptation. You can see in the shape here that they have evolved to become almost like a paddle. So there's a lot more water around now, and they need to move through the water more easily. They're stronger currents, so the wings have evolved into a different shape. I made this out of things I found around my house. It's leftovers from a Halloween costume. You can see I've got feathers and pipe cleaners. If I turn it around, you can see too, I have cotton balls in here to help it hold the shape and a wire framing. Now, one thing I did not have in my house was glue, so I kind of had to improvise and make do. I used some sewing thread and kind of just stuck the feathers into the cotton balls here. So get creative. Mine was based on a real bird, but yours does not have to be. You can completely make it up. What lives best in your future Florida? So a couple of questions to think about once you have your bird. What would happen if the environment where your bird lives suddenly changed? Would it still be able to survive? Say if all of my water dried up, would my mingo still be able to survive? Probably not, right? It would have to move or adapt. So here's your challenge. Take a picture of your bird creation. Write up a short description of what Florida looks like to you in 500 years and the adaptations your bird needs to survive, and email it to us at education@swa.org, or post it in the comments here, and you'll be featured on our social media. So again, this was Adaptation Artistry from Project Wild, and we just want you to remember that we are not the only ones living on this planet. It's really important to recycle right, to protect the environment for us and for all the creatures we live with, including our bird friends. So again, my name was Katie Sprague, and I'm an education specialist at the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County. Make sure to tune in each weekday at 11 a.m. for the next lesson or activity with the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County. Be sure to like and share this video, and I can't wait to see your bird creation.